This Halloween instead of candy.
Imagine a nightmare. What if the costumed kids knocking on your door simply vanished? No screams, no witnesses, just silence thick, suffocating silence swallowing the laughter of an entire neighborhood. Tonight, we're peeling back the rotten mask of a true Halloween horror. The mysterious disappearance of 4 young trick-or-treaters who walked down Maple Hollow Lane one October night.
And were never seen again. Their candy buckets were found.
Their costumes abandoned, but the kids gone. And what came after changed the town forever. Where did the trick-or-treaters go? It was October 31st, 2007.
The kind of Halloween night that felt almost scripted, cold air biting softly at your cheeks, the faint rustle of leaves chasing along the sidewalks, and that sugar-sweet smell of pumpkin guts and cheap chocolate lingering everywhere.
The suburban street of Willow Creek was glowing in amber light from rows of jack-o'-lanterns, their crooked grins flickering like nervous smiles in the dark.
Kids ran from house to house, their laughter echoing like music from another world. Among them were 4 friends, Eli, Brooke, Tanner, and Little Mason, each dressed as one of the classic monsters: a vampire, a werewolf, a ghost, and a skeleton.
They were inseparable, known around the neighborhood as the Fearsome Four. That night, they had one mission: hit every house on the block before p.m. and fill their candy buckets to the brim. Around 8:47 p.m., a neighbor named Mrs. Whitmore waved to them from her porch as they turned the corner near Holloway Drive.
That was the last time anyone ever saw them alive. By 9:30, when most kids were heading home, their parents started to worry.
The calls began. Have you seen them? They should have been back by now. The laughter that had filled Willow Creek began to fade, replaced by the hum of police radios and the crunch of boots across dead leaves. The streets that had felt so alive just hours earlier were now silent, haunted by that silence only small towns know after something terrible happens. When officers began searching, they found something strange. At the intersection of Holloway and Pine, there was a single candy bucket lying in the gutter. It was Tanner's. Everyone recognized the cracked skull sticker he'd put on it. But the candy inside wasn't candy anymore. It was full of brittle, dead leaves, perfectly dry despite the damp air.
A few yards away, resting neatly on the curb, was a single unopened candy bar.
Perfectly placed, as if set there on purpose. The wrapper was smooth, no signs of tearing or fingerprints.
Forensics found nothing, no fibers, no prints, nothing.
Just that eerie sense that it was meant to be found. Then came the whispers.
About the old Brindle House, the one sitting at the edge of town, swallowed by ivy and fork.
It had been abandoned since the 70s after a fire that took the lives of a family inside. Teenagers dared each other to go in, but nobody ever stayed past midnight. Some said they'd seen lights flickering inside, or heard children's laughter drifting from its crumbling porch. By midnight, a search party gathered. They combed the streets, the woods, even the drainage tunnels. No tracks, no torn costumes, no trail.
It was as if the 4 kids had simply evaporated into the night.
One officer, years later, admitted he'd heard something while searching behind Brindle House that night.
A faint sound, like the rustling of candy wrappers, then laughter, soft, childish, echoing from the second floor of the burned-out shell of a house. But when he shone his flashlight, there was nothing.
Just peeling wallpaper and a single pumpkin sitting in the corner, freshly carved. Candles still burning. The next morning, the entire town was on edge.
News vans crowded the streets.
Volunteers combed the area for weeks and helicopters swept the woods, but no trace was ever found. Not footprints, not fabric, not a single clue.
Within a month, Halloween decorations came down early. Parents forbade their kids from trick-or-treating.
The joy of the holiday had curdled into dread.
People whispered that someone had taken them.
But the stories never agreed. Some said it was a drifter in a stolen van. Others saw it was something older, something that wore a mask made of bone and followed the sound of laughter on Halloween night. In 2012, 5 years later, a family moving into a new home just 3 blocks from where the kids vanished found something buried in their backyard.
4 small candy buckets,
each filled not with dirt but with perfectly preserved Halloween candy, untouched by decay. The wrappers were old but clean, and each bucket had a small carving on the bottom, a date in 3107 scratched into the plastic.
Authorities reopened the case, but there were no answers, no suspects.
No explanation for how the candy could have survived intact underground for 5 years.
One detective, now retired, said that when he opened one of the candy bars from the evidence bag, the chocolate was still soft, like it had just been made. He swore he could smell smoke and autumn air when he tore the wrapper.
The story faded over time, as all tragedies do.
But every Halloween since then, people claim to see 4 figures walking together down Holloway Drive.
Not kids anymore, but shadows in tattered costumes, their jack-o'-lantern eyes glowing faintly from within.
Dogs bark at nothing.
Porch lights flicker, and if you listen closely, beneath the wind and the rustling leaves, you can hear the faint jingle of plastic candy buckets and a single voice whispering,
"Trick or treat."
No one answers the door anymore on that street. The Brindle House still stands, rotting but somehow untouched by time, its windows black and watching.
Some say that if you leave candy on your doorstep, you'll hear soft footsteps approach. Then the candy will vanish by morning, replaced by dry leaves, perfectly crisp, no matter the weather. It's been almost 2 decades, and the case is still unsolved. But every October 31st, the air in Willow Creek turns colder than anywhere else in the state.
The wind carries whispers that don't belong to it, and the people who live there know whatever took those trick or treaters never left. It just waits year after year for the next knock at the door.